In this video, we'll show you how to set up an SMA inverter and make setting changes required for the Horizon network. The first step is to connect your smart device to the inverter's WLAN. After you've done this, open up a web browser and go to 192.168.12.3. We're assuming in this video that you've already commissioned the inverter and it's set with the AS4777 country standard. After the inverter is commissioned, you'll need to log in. Use the installer user group and enter in the installer password. Once you are logged into the inverter, if it has been running for more than 10 hours, you will need to enter in the grid guard code. Click on the menu icon, click User Settings, then click SMA Grid Guard Login. Enter in the grid guard code and then press Login. Click on the menu button, then click Device Parameters. Click Edit Parameters. Firstly, we'll check that the country standard on the inverter has been set correctly. Go to Grid Monitoring. Then verify that country standard is on AS4777.2. If it is not on this standard, you will need to set the country standard in the drop-down menu to AS4777.2. Next, we need to make parameter changes. Below Grid Monitoring, click Country Standard. Then scroll down to Frequency Monitoring. Change the lower maximum threshold to 53 Hz. Change the upper minimum threshold to 45 Hz. Change the upper limit for reconnection to 50.5 Hz. Now scroll down to Voltage Monitoring. Change lower maximum threshold to 265 volts. Now scroll down to Voltage Increase Protection. Change this to 258 volts. Now we need to change further inverter settings. Scroll down to System and Device Control. Click Inverter. Click Configuration of Static Voltage Stabilization. Under Operating Mode, change to Reactive Power Characteristic Curve. Now scroll down to Configuration Active Power Reduction at Over Frequency. The operating mode should be set to Linear Gradient. Underneath the category Configuration of Linear Instantaneous Power Gradient, you will see a number of settings. The settings which you choose here will depend on the area that your inverter is connected into the Horizon network. If it is within the NWIS region, you only need to change the active power gradient to 36%. If your inverter is connected outside the NWIS region, you have further parameter changes to make. Starting with the difference between starting frequency and grid frequency, change this to 0.6 Hz. The active power gradient needs to be changed to 42%. Difference between reset and grid frequency needs to change to 0.5 Hz. The minimum time until activation of active power reset needs to be changed to 0 minutes and 20 seconds. Now we need to change the volt-var and volt-watt curves. Click on Configuration of Grid Integration Characteristic Curves. Click Characteristic Curve item. Scroll down to Number of points to be used in curve A. Change this to 4. You will notice that the x-axis units are always voltage in absolute volts. Curve A is in units of relative power. Curve B has y-axis units of reactive power relative to the Pmax. Therefore, curve A is the volt-watt response, whereas curve B is the volt-var response. Now click Configuration of Characteristic Curve Mode. Activation of Characteristic Curve B should be on. Now scroll down to Supporting Points of Characteristic Curve 1, the volt-watt curve. We need to change the x and y values to match the 4 points shown on the screen. Now we need to change the characteristic curve for volt-var, which is stored in curve number 2. We need to change the x and y values to match the 4 points shown on the screen. We've now finished all the setting changes necessary. Scroll to the top of the page. At the top of the page you can view the list of setting changes you have made. If you're happy with these, press Save All, and then your inverter is commissioned for the Horizon grid.